Am I on? Thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Atlas, for the future. We are actually all gathered here today to fix the future, so this is what I'm also going to try to contribute at. I am Areti, and I am coming from Greece, based in Barcelona. It's always saying hi to Barcelona, although I'm living here. And I'm an architect coming from IAAC, a very, very interesting place, which is a kind of a factory of knowledge, production, and education. You're all welcome to visit it if you're staying further on in the city. And I would like to share with you today some steps, few steps towards the future of our build space, our buildings and our architecture and our cities. But before doing so, I would like to bring you to the present, which we believe it's a bit problematic and we're trying to solve. So design's answer to urban growth, to population growth, has been basically standardized, repetitive, and rigid design. And it assumed that we are all standard people, that we have standard actions, and we have standard needs. And those are the environments that we're inhabiting in big part of the planet today. At the same time, those standard buildings, they are basically the biggest consumption organism. They are responsible for 40% of the energy, of the whole energy that we are producing, consuming in our cities, and they are also responsible for 36% of the CO2 emissions in our atmosphere. Not only that, we are also living in cities that they are not inclusive, they are unequal. We have 100 million of people that they are homeless in the world, and we have more than 1.6 billion of people that they lack adequate housing. They lack a place to live in, a building to host them. So those numbers are not great, right? The way that we're building, the way that we are managing, and the way that we are designing our contemporary cities and buildings, they are not driving us into a bright future. So let's start think architecture differently. Let's start building differently, not a city or a building that is a consuming agent, but really closer to be a living organism, a living, a catering organism to all. Here are 4 steps to the future of built space. Number 1, design with the people and not for them. Architecture will become more collaborative, and it will also become more socially driven. The star architect idea, which I love because I will never be one, dies. It's not really about the architect, but it's all about the people and how they want to live in our environments. Architecture becomes a platform that different disciplines meet, but also a platform that people can use in order to make their life better according to their needs, and not according to the needs that somebody else mapped out for them, such as planners or developers. We have been working with this principle in a project in Mumbai, in India, for a redevelopment area of a 27-hectare residential building. Together with our city and technology program, we have been going there, and in collaboration with the housing area developments in Mumbai, we realized that the people were only asked where to place their kitchen, bathroom, and bedroom. They were not given any input in relation to the overall program of the building. It's a huge complex, or to the landscape design, or even to the infrastructural aspects of that building. So we decided to go there. We served the people. We talked with many of those people that they were living there. And instead of going back with a final design top-down solution, we decided to go there with a series of design possibilities. We realized through our questions that those people, they were unable to understand what it meant to grow food, for instance, in their complex. When we asked that question, they were like looking at us, explaining that they didn't know that this can happen in an urban environment. In India, in rural India, this is something that they are not aware of. So we decided also to gather them not around a 3-dimensional prototype and model or drawings, but we decided to allow them to be immersed and experience the different design solutions and what would that mean for their space. We did that with low-cost virtual reality tools that they could plug into their phone, and they were able to visualize scenarios of growing food into the rooftop of their future building, greening their facade, generating energy, and even processing waste so that they can have an economical benefit. And what surprised us is that we also invited them to understand that in order to have those extra community programs and spaces, they needed to give part of their house, part of their square meters. And we're talking about 25, 30 square meters per family. So that was not a lot. And they were able to do that. They were willing to offer some square meters of their house so that they can have spaces to meditate or spaces to generate energy or spaces to process waste. And they were very excited about this. So we architects, we are educated to basically design for the people, but not design with them. And the future requires from our discipline to redefine our design process into a process that it is more collaborative and in a process that it is more participatory. Built to produce resources. Our built environment will become more productive and will become less energy consuming. The first resource that we need to integrate into our urban infrastructure, the same way that cars and roads are part of our infrastructure, should be food. In order to be able to feed the planet in the next decades, we need to increase our food production by 70%. Thinking that this can happen into our traditional agricultural processes is a big mistake, because those processes are not sustainable. They are destroying habitats, they are destroying biodiversity all around the world, and they are giving and bringing deforestation. So food production, or big part of food production, should come back into our cities and into our environments. Back at IAAC, we have been experimenting with transforming our terrace in our building. And then we design and we build with very low cost and low quality Catalan wood, 0-kilometer material. And we designed a space so that our terrace could become a place where social interaction happens, but also food production happens. In collaboration with Aqua Pioneers, that they have helped us on that. They are a great group of entrepreneurs that they have developed in Green Fab Lab in our Valdaura campus, a do-it-yourself open source system of aquaponics, which is a system that is actually growing plants using fish as fertilizer. So there is no necessity of soil, and it is also saving a lot of water. That makes it a perfect system for applying it into our urban agriculture. Energy is another resource. The last years, we have been working with developing biophotovoltaic systems for architecture and public spaces. Biophotovoltaic technology is mainly a technology that it is generating energy by the microbial organisms that they can be found on the roots of the tree. Simply said, our plants, throughout their photosynthetic process, they can provide us energy. And the energy, the amount of energy is not very big, but we're talking about biological materials, we're talking about biological organisms, we're talking about generating energy and at the same time greening our spaces, filtering our air, preventing from urban flooding, and also reducing the urban heat effect. So that is a technology that we are aiming to scale up into buildings and public spaces, and we have been granted a European grant to do that in the next 5 years, demonstrating in 3 cities, in France, in Portugal, and in Bulgaria, 3 demonstrators that is actually showing that the future of food and the future of energy needs to be part of our built space and our urban infrastructure. A home for everybody. According to United Nations, we will need 150,000 daily homes in the next decade for the people, for the growing population. So our construction sector will and should deploy and absorb systems of construction, technologies of construction that they are cheaper, they are quicker, and they are more sustainable. One of those technologies is 3D printing. 3D printing big scale. We have been working the last years on 3D printing with earth, with soil, with 100% material that can be found on site. We have been hacking different machines from our industry partners, and then we have developed scenarios of 3D printing with material that we can find on site, either in a refugee camp in Kenya or in our urban environment here in Barcelona. The fact that soil is actually unbaked clay. It can be used to construct, but then it can also get back to the place where it was extracted from. So that idea of working with those materials that they can be found on site is also bringing us to urban environments. Another material that we can find on site apart from soil, especially in dense urban contexts, is waste. Together with the Italian Institute of Technology, we have been developing a bioplastic project that it is based on organic waste. In this specific case, the waste is coffee waste and orange peels, that they both have different structural properties to the architectural systems. But what is becoming really, really interesting is to start thinking that our waste can be part of the future material. And this is not only, let's say, minimizing the impact of plastic industry in architecture, but it is also giving value to our waste, contributing into our circular economy of our cities, but also of our construction sector. Small, passive small, is the new big. So our built spaces in the future will acquire intelligence. But why do we need to think that the intelligence is always related with a machine, is always related with a cable, with a switch, or with a plug? We foresee buildings that they will acquire intelligence in a more passive way, in really taking advantage of the performances of the microscale, of the nanoscale, of the different materials that we're using. The breathing skin, we have been working with hydrogels, that they are crystals able to absorb water and retain them for a long time. Some of you have probably used that material in your plants during being away on vacation. And we have encapsulated that system into elastic fabric, and we created a soft skin that it is able to absorb moist and fog during night. And then during day that we have high temperatures outside, the water is evaporating. It is able to cool the interior of our spaces, and at the same time, I have to run this video, and at the same time, it's opening in order to allow natural ventilation to happen. So those applications can be found in public spaces. We have worked in developing it into places with extreme high temperatures, in public spaces that they are not inhabited because of that. But it can also be applied into our existing buildings or into our urban environments. And working with those systems, it always blows my mind off, because it radically questions and it shifts the scale of our operation, the way that we're operating. As architects and as planners, we have been educated to design, and we have been educated to think and build big. But small, and remember that, passive small is the new big. I'm summing up, those are just few steps to the future. But what it is important is that we are at a moment of big challenges. Our human impact, our impact of growth, our impact of capitalistic, economical, political structure have been so immense that we even made it to define a geological era about it, the Anthropocene era, which is basically describing our human impact in the planet. I only see a bright, built future if we all humans work together towards a kind of a new ecological wisdom, a new equilibrium between nature and artifice that includes humans, but it also includes technology and machines. It includes existing species and the species to come. And I really believe that merging nature with technology, designing cities to produce, to perform, to interact, being closely to a living organism, it would allow us not only to minimize our human impact in the planet, but also to maximize our emotional connection with everything surrounding us. So that is the future that we want to live in, and this is the future I want to build for. Thank you.